We finally have it. I am so excited. We finally have an official ruling on toe-to-toe. And if you haven't been following this saga for quite some time, well, frankly, I don't know where you've been because it's kind of crazy how this whole thing has been. It really started kind of more or less for me personally in my Discord. And the link to my Discord is down below. We talk about Marvel Champions. We talk about all sorts of different games. But be sure to join the Discord if you haven't yet because it's a lot of fun. But anyway, this whole thing started with this when we were kind of theorizing about toe-to-toe. And really have to give a shout out to JS, one of my rules experts. He really kind of started this whole train for me, this thought process. And he explained how toe-to-toe may work a little bit differently than we thought. And I don't want to recap it too much because I've done 2 other videos about it. You can see them here. Most of our live streams, we end up talking about it over on twitch.tv/D20 woodworking. But let me give you a really short synopsis on it and then talk about how they actually ruled it. All right, so just really quick, this is going to be kind of not as in detail, but most people will read toe-to-toe and say, okay, you have to resolve 1 sentence at a time. This was for the 1.5 rules. And they would say, okay, choose an enemy. Okay, so I choose so-and-so on the table. That enemy attacks you. Okay, they would let that enemy attack them, and then I would deal 5 damage to that enemy. The problem is there's a thing known as the Widow's Bite ruling. That ruling stated if I have Widow's, or the question was if I have Widow's Bite in play and I reveal a minion with Quick Strike, which resolves first, right? This can mean a couple different things to different people, but they ruled that Quick Strike triggers, I'm just trying to get out of the way of the box, when a minion engages a player and that minion enters play, engages the player who resolves them. Thus, Quick Strike and the response on Widow's Bite, and let me make sure, there we go, there's Widow's Bite so you can read it. It's a 1-cost upgrade. It's a hero response. After a minion enters play, discard Widow's Bite, deal 2 damage to that minion and stun it, right? So would you stun the minion before the Quick Strike, etc. All right, so keywords have time priority over responsibility. So Quick Strike initiates first, and this is a key word in this, initiates first. Widow's Bite can be triggered after the Quick Strike attack initiates. If the damage from Widow's Bite defeats the attacking enemy, it does not resolve. All right, so it's saying the 2 damage on here, if this would happen first before the Quick Strike would resolve, they would never finish its attack. Its attack does not resolve. Otherwise, the attack resolves and the enemy will be stunned for its next attack. And this ruling made no sense to anyone because why? Right? Like, why would that ever happen? Because Quick Strike should just really happen first. Why is there a whole initiating attack and then resolving the attack, right? Like they were like making they were differentiating things, and those things aren't in the rule book. So a lot of people were, very confused about this. So anyway, the idea kind of stemmed for toe-to-toe from this, that when the enemy attacks you, could you initiate the attack, not resolve the attack, right? Because we don't need to resolve it. We just can initiate it, initiate the attack, deal 5 damage, and resolve it. And a bunch of us had sent questions in regarding this and like taunt and other things about this because we had some rules questions on this. And from I think 2 or 3 months, they didn't answer the question. They wouldn't answer the question. And really, it's because we knew deep down, look, and I will agree with everyone that says this. When people say, well, the card is obviously supposed to work, choose an enemy, the enemy attacks you, then you deal the 5 damage, and you resolve the attack, and they go, that's obviously how the card is supposed to work. I agree with you. That is obviously how the card's supposed to work. But because of rules and how they were written, right, we had to, kind of look at it slightly differently because, again, even though we may look at things that, rules as intended may be one thing, but does rules as written take precedent over it? And I actually think there's some questions with that, and I think we'll have to do another video on that in the future because there's a good argument to be made with rules as written and rules as intended that we can get into at some point, but not in this video. It's gonna be too much. Okay, so again, I know people will be like, this card seems obvious, and I agree with you. It does seem obvious in what the intention was, but because of how the rules were written and how the rules were made in Hall of Heroes, it was no longer obvious. So we asked the question, we never really heard back. Anyway, so they have now, since then, come out the 1.6 ruling. And actually, we'll go to this page first. So this was the release for the 1.6 rules. I'm going to do a separate video on 1.6 because there's not a lot. There's a lot to talk about, but I'd rather focus on that stuff and toe-to-toe separately so they don't get mushed together. But within the news article announcements for resolving activation instructions, we have recently made some rulings on questions surrounding the effect of the villain attacks you established, that this effect is considered resolved upon initiation of the attack. This is kind of what we're talking about first, right? You can initiate the Quick Strike, but you don't have to resolve the Quick Strike, which is kind of the interesting thing. Those rulings have created some confusion in the community and caused certain cards like toe-to-toe and taunt to not function as intended. Again, we'll get into rules as intended versus rules as written in a later video, but you will see the word intended a lot in this article, and I don't think that's by accident. For those reasons, we are changing the course of this question. Excuse me. Now the effect the villain attacks you is not considered resolved until the villain's attack has fully resolved, including any effects that happen after an attack, such as the retaliate keyword and any response to that attack. Only then is the instruction the villain attacks you considered resolved, and the effects following the attack can resolve. Okay, so they give the example of toe-to-toe, which is phenomenal. So for example, the card toe-to-toe states, hero action, choose an enemy. Don't I have it up on screen? There we go. Choose an enemy. The enemy attacks you, deal 5 damage, right? So when you play toe-to-toe, you must fully resolve the enemy's attack before you deal the 5 damage to the enemy. Okay, cool. This rule applies to scheme and activation instructions, including quick strike and teamwork keywords, as well as minions doing any of those things. With this change, they have updated a frequently asked question about Widow's Bite, which is what we talked about. That was previously a source of confusion. Widow's Bite now does not resolve against a minion with quick strike until that minion fully resolve its quick strike attack. And this was the argument that we made, that these two things, toe-to-toe and the Widow's Bite ruling, cannot exist together. And honestly, we talked about this in the live streams, we talked about this in Discord constantly, that I don't want toe-to-toe to work the way that I think it did. Well, actually now it's basically confirmed that it was going to work the way that we thought it was going to work, because that causes too much confusion, right? It's too confusing. The best way to solve all of this was to revert the Widow's Bite ruling, to say, no, we got it wrong there, or we're changing things or whatever. It doesn't even matter how you phrase it. But that's what they have done. They have gotten rid of the Widow's Bite ruling, which just makes everything so much easier. And if you know me, that's what I'm all about. I just want this game to be streamlined. I want it to be simple. I want to be able to invite new players into the game and have everything kind of just make sense. Right? That's always been the thing I have always, rallied for and championed for, was not that I want to be right or wrong about certain rulings or whatever. I want the game to be streamlined to make the most sense. But if they're going to have weird rulings such as Widow's Bite, it's going to have downstream effects that do affect cards like toe-to-toe and taunt. So they had to kind of fix all that stuff. I'm I'm so happy they did. I'm so incredibly happy they did. I am truly happy, because this is just the right step, or it goes in the right direction. It's the right step in the right direction to just, again, making this game simple, making it easy for as many people as possible to get into the game. And I know some people are going to ask, well, D20, what's the actual ruling, so I can just understand it? So it's on page 6 under activation, and it's really these 2 red bullet points, but probably more so the top one, but kind of both of them have to deal with it. So an effect that initiates an enemy activation is considered resolved after the activation has fully resolved. And again, with fully resolving, they're talking about, I already lost my thing. When the attack choose can resolve attacks such as the retaliate keyword and any response to that attack, all of that has to happen before the enemy is activate against you, which actually does make things really nice in the sense that, if you watch, again, my live streams, you'll notice, okay, I'll do a little bit here. I'm not 100% sure the timing is, because sometimes it bounces over here, sometimes it bounces back, right? This is just going to make things so much easier. It's going to be so nice. So that is the big thing. And then if an effect initiates an activation during the resolution of another activation, the newly initiated activation resolves after the current activation has finished resolving. Again, this kind of just clarifies, just do things kind of in order, right? Just do things in order. You don't have to worry about again, if you see me, sometimes I stress about you have to jump here and then jump here and then this response happens versus this interrupt or whatever, right? This one, you probably don't have to worry about as much, but this is the main one that is the direct ruling for toe-to-toe. All right, really quick, I want to give a big shout out to the community as a whole. I know this was a weird kind of ruling, and I know it sparked a lot of debate on, different forums and different communities and whatnot. And I hope everyone treated each other with civility, because that's the most important thing of all. And I hope everyone understands this wasn't ever about trying to be right or trying to be wrong or try to prove the game wrong or try whatever. It's about consistency and try to make the game as accessible for everyone as humanly possible. And I cannot stress this enough. This ruling, while it doesn't make toe-to-toe work the way, quote unquote, it should have if they followed through the rules, because again, they changed Widow's Bite, they did the right thing, right? This is an amazing ruling. This is fantastic. This is what I love to see because it's going to make it easier. It's going to get more people into the game, and it's absolutely amazing. And again, I think it shows the other cool thing about this community as a whole is that, yeah, I did like 2 videos on this and talked a little bit on a live stream with some people, but I saw, Facebook posts that I was nothing a part of. I saw saw Reddit posts about Toto that I wasn't a part of. I saw in other Discords, right, them discussing it. And it's really cool to see like people, again, treat each other with civility. They were all nice to each other about it, pretty much for the most part. They were just like trying to understand it, trying to understand the wording, trying to understand everything, not attacking anyone. Like that's what I like to see in this community, right? Like we're all in this to make this game as great as it possibly can be because we want as many people to play this game as possible because it's an amazing game, right? So it was really cool to kind of see like everyone just like, hey, we just wanted to answer. This answer that they provided was the best possible answer. And I can already tell, like, from just glancing around different parts of the community, a lot of people are excited because this was the right decision, right? What they did was the right decision. And it's amazing to see. It's absolutely fantastic. I still have to go over the rest of the rule book. You know me. This is the first thing I looked for the second they came out with this announcement. So yeah, I have to go through the rest of the rule book. We'll do a rules video on the rest of 1.6 because there's some stuff that's come up with it. We'll probably do some stuff about the erratas because there's a few new things in there. And then again, I think either one of those videos or a separate video, I want to talk about rules as intended versus rules as written because I do think this might be the thing moving forward. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I think this is going to be kind of a guiding principle for this game. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a really good thing. So anyway, really happy about this news. I know people wanted me to make a follow-up video whenever it was announced because it's kind of been hanging out there for months now, but now we know we can put it to rest and then we can find the new thing that confuses us and maybe get that explained. So anyway, I appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. Make sure to like and subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts about Toto, and I'll see you all next time.